In episode number 309 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Mark Millar's latest comic announcement.
We also have Disney's updated decision with James Gunn and whether or not he will return to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Our comic book highlight this week is Adventures of the Super Sons #1, continuing the adventures of Damian Wayne and Jonathan Kent.
We also bring you an interview this week with treasure hunting Sonic, the biggest Sonic collector that we now can say that we personally know.
All of this and so much more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and so much more. I am your Emperor Kelli.
And I am Darth Vader Daniel.
And for those of you joining us for the very first time, welcome to the show. The way we format is first we're going to start out with some news. We're going to go into the Brokehead block, which is where we talk about our week. We have our Patreon shoutouts. At the end of the episode, we're going to have a comic book review. And since this is a very super packed episode, we also have our interview at the very end of the show.
Can we restart this and say the 2018 Podcast Awards nominated Games and Hobbies, the Reasons I'm Broke podcast? I don't know what that was. Was that like an African call? Like,
no, that was like exciting music. Like, you know, the like blowhorns. It was like, and then it was like, do.
So that sounds more like it, not the.
Listen. I haven't finished my cup of coffee yet, so I have to ease into these things. I can't just be awesome all the time, as much as I would love the Brokeheads to believe that. You have seen me at my worst. You know.
So we're going to start the show off today with two pieces of Disney news, both of which are positive for the company. Good things for the Walt Disney Company.
First off, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, Funko is releasing another set of Pops, including some exclusives through Walgreens, Barnes & Noble, and, of course, Hot Topic.
So the new Pops include Snowman Jack, which is seen for a couple of seconds in the film where he's hiding inside a snowman and kind of jumps up off it, and an elf goes, "What the fuck was that?" Like, he turns around. So we got that one. We've also got Sally as a standard regular pose for Sally. The vampire teddy bear, which follows and chases kids around in the movie.
Yes, terrifying them.
The Harlequin demon, which is just another type of, like, they had the werewolf. That was also an exclusive, so just another townsperson. Dr. Finkelstein, which I was shocked. I thought that was in the first round of them, but I guess not. Also, the clown with the tearaway face.
Oh.
And my personal favorite, and the one that I have already pre-ordered, is Bug Form Oogie Boogie, right after Jack rips off his, like, skin, basically, and he's made up of a bunch of bugs.
Oh, and he's all the bunch of... That's so cool.
It's a really nice one. The only thing is the Funko Pop has him smiling, and I'm like, no, he was dying in that scene.
This is acceptance Bug Form Oogie Boogie.
I think they're really cool. At 25 years, I would have thought we'd hit that already, but I guess not. It does make a lot of sense because I remember in the Burger King toys, not the Happy Meals, but the Big Kids toys or whatever they call them, they had the little Nightmare Before Christmas. It might have been McDonald's, but they had the Nightmare Before Christmas watches. And I remember my mom got me a couple of those, and they were, you know, little cheap ones, but they were really cool. Like, they were kids' watches, and they worked, and some were glow in the dark, and they did little things like you can move the little watch thing on it, the little head on it. So that's when I was about, I guess, 5 or 6. So it does make sense that now would be the 25th anniversary.
Do you still like this movie as much as you did? Because I remember when we first met, like, this was one of your favorite movies. You absolutely loved everything Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I think it's still a really awesome movie. I can't say anything really bad about it. It's really stylized. It's stop motion animation. The story itself is a whole parody of Christmas. And I think it's a really cool movie. I mean, I would say, I mean, I guess it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, but I also like a lot of movies, so I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, I think I do like it as much. I just don't buy as much merch anymore because I think I did get my fill of that when you and I met.
Oh man, you had everything Nightmare Before Christmas.
And that was right when they started like really doing the product, and then they really started doing the product.
That would have been what, the 15th, 20th anniversary?
Yeah,
15th?
That might have been it, the 15th anniversary.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff. I remember. I'm so old now. But Disney's really killing it with these pops. So they have these. Did you see they have ones coming out for the rides on the theme parks now too?
Like Funko Pops for the rides?
So there's a rumored one for Splash Mountain with the Briar Fox and Briar Rabbit and like the little log, and they're only going to sell it in that shop. I was like, oh,
that makes a lot of sense now. There was a customer asking me about that pop, and we're like, no, it's not in our system. I don't know. We're always like, it's probably an exclusive, and we look it up, and sure enough, most of the time that the Funko buyers come in and they ask for something that I've never heard or seen in the shop or seen in pre-orders, I'm always like, it's probably an exclusive that is, or something that's out of production that is already going for $200+ and they're trying to get it for 10 to flip it themselves. And it's only until I say, no, I'm sorry, it's out of production, we can't get it anymore, then they're like, oh yeah, it's going for 400 online. So I don't know, I was just trying to find one. All right.
Sure you were. Those things go fast though. The Target exclusive Pikachu, we tried forever to get that thing and no dice.
The last time you had checked eBay, they were what, $30?
$30.
You even told me, like, do you want to just get one? And I'm like, nah, fuck that person. Like, making triple to quadruple the profit. I'll wait till probably close to Christmas when they bring out another wave of these, and then I'll give it a shot then. But otherwise, I have such a disdain for people that are only there to flip the product.
Flip them,
and
of course.
I don't want to try to, I guess, contribute to that specific speculator.
It's different when you're like us and you spent too much money on this crap and now you have no room for it.
Gotta make room. Gotta make room for more crap in the future.
This is really cool, though. Of course, you'll be getting Bug Oogie Boogie, but if any of our listeners get any of the rest of these, go ahead and send us a tweet, send us a picture, @ReasonsI'mBroke, @PalpaKelli.
The Devil Pop, if you remember, he's also another townsperson. You can't get him unless you go to Walgreens. And that's going to be an exclusive one
Walgreens.
to Walgreens. The rest are variations on the 25th anniversary set. So, for example, there's like a bejeweled type of Jack Skellington that's an exclusive. There's a glow-in-the-dark Harlequin. So they're the same ones you can already get, except they have that variation on it. Except for the Devil, which I think is going to be the most sought after of these exclusives.
Because Walgreens swooping in there. You know why Target isn't on that list?
Because they paid too much for that goddamn Pikachu.
And it apparently worked out for them because they are sold out online. They're sold out, and it just says no restocking.
Yeah, but how many of those fucking things did they actually sell? Because I heard that most Targets got 6 of them. 6 per Target.
But think how many Targets there are in the entire
That doesn't matter. Like, who the fuck put in that goddamn order of like, well, let's get enough to where we can get 6 in each Target. It's like you can sell more than 25 of each of these things.
They could sell way more than that.
Store.
They had to make it desirable.
It doesn't help them though, because it's just like the Wii thing. It's not like, you know, they're going to do another, okay, now let's get 100 of these next time. Like, how many of these people aren't going to care by then? Like, the rush has already gone by. It's not like a video game console where you can just say, well, I really need to play this game that's coming out as well. This is a one-time thing. Blow your load once and make as much money as you can.
I got excited because I went on Target to see like, oh, maybe they made some more. And it said what aisle it was available on. But then you click it and it still says it's not available. Target.
Nice try, PalpaKelli.
I was trying. I want this Pikachu Pop.
Disney has gone ahead and done the right thing. They are standing firm against not rehiring pedo perv James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
You know what kind of news this is?
It's not fake news.
This is just not news because we all knew that this was what was going to happen.
No, we did not.
So why do we feel like anything different was going to happen?
Because the fucking Marvel sheep and all these Marvel goddamn MCU sheep have been saying, no, they're gonna have to bring him back. They don't have to do anything.
No.
They don't have to fucking do anything.
You
think Disney's going to admit they're fucking wrong?
Look at it from a fucking business standpoint. You're not going to bring back this person who could have potentially done these things. And then those pictures of him at that party, nah.
Yeah, that pedo perv fucking party where he was a priest and dressed up around other little girls that like adult women, but they were dressed as little girls, and there's other like pedo type of like, get the fuck out of here, James Gunn, especially when that shit released. Get the fuck out. You're never going to work on this shit again. And all the people that are saying the liars, the lying MCU sheep, which goes hand in hand, that are saying that they're going to boycott Guardians 3. No, you're fucking not. You're still going to watch it. Don't fucking lie to yourself.
So the company met with Gunn in a meeting for him to plead his case, but as we all figured would happen, Disney did not relent.
Gunn's script will be kept for Volume 3, But Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige is going to begin searching for a new director this month. We'll probably have an announcement next month.
So Bautista will not be out of his contract because they kept the script like he wanted.
Yeah.
So he will stay and be that character that I don't even know the name of because who cares?
Depending on who they get to direct Volume 3, it will depend on whether we go see it. It's going to be hard to know until they actually make that announcement. I don't have an issue with them keeping his script unless it's anything like the Volume 2 script. If it's more like Volume 1, great. But I don't want nipple jokes and shit in the third one. And I was even telling the guys last night on the stream on Lazy Gaming Guys, I don't know if I'm going to see another MCU movie ever again. Like, I have no interest in these things anymore.
You know, if we do go see this movie, if at any point we see this movie, we're just going to be looking for, like, pedo jokes everywhere or things that could possibly be.
Probably. Like, they're already pointing out Baby Groot things, so it's already there.
Baby Groot?
Like, they should interview Baby Groot and see if James Gunn did something to him.
See if he feels comfortable.
Like, tell us, Baby Groot, what happened?
Where did James Gunn touch you, Baby Groot?
Here's this Baby Groot plush. Let us know where he touched you.
Was it Baby Groot or Sackboy or whatever his name was?
I forget, this isn't the stream last night.
No. Did you... Listen, I gotta point out something on that stream. It was funny, but they're talking about food being dick lengths off the floor. You're out of the room for that.
Food being what?
So in food and beverage, your food has to be 6 inches off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody was saying, oh, so that's like a dick length off the floor.
Gotcha.
And then they started, and the food and beverage in me was going, I don't want dicks anywhere near my food.
No word yet on if production is going to begin next year, but it probably will, especially if Feige is going to start looking for that director. And they already have the script.
And they want to get it out fast because they want to make more money, but it's going to take just long enough for everyone to forget. And then watch it and say, that was the best Guardians movie, but it would have been better with James Gunn.
But I'm glad they used his script.
Yes.
Like, that's what it's going to be.
That's why it's so good, because of his script.
And maybe it is. I don't know. If it's like Guardians 1, then they're right. If it's not, then they're wrong. I will decide when I watch it.
I'm pretty sure that it's going to be like Guardians 2, because that one made more money than 1, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah, so there we go. Now we know.
One of our favorite writers recently in the world of comics, and someone who has it all set already with his career, never has to work for Marvel or Disney.
Never again.
Or Marvel or DC ever again. Mark Millar is reuniting with artist Raphael Albuquerque for a new series titled Prodigy.
Prodigy centers on Edison Crane, described as the world's smartest man who gets tired of being the most successful person in the world and aims for something more. His brilliant mind needs constant challenge, and so he's become the go-to guy for governments around the world when a problem arises they just can't handle.
What do you think of that premise? The most smartest guy in the whole wide world gets bored and wants to do things that he's not comfortable with, which makes sense because you're forever trying to grow,
right?
Forever trying to expand your mind.
Right. I think it's an interesting concept. I think it will be very difficult to write, because how do you write in a way where a character sounds smarter than everybody who's reading it?
Without making him sound condescending, which then turns the reader
then
off
you're not
to
gonna,
it.
Right, exactly. It's a very difficult kind of character to write, because I've seen people try to write it before, obviously in fan fiction, but I've seen people try to do it before, and it's difficult because anything that he talks about, Mark has to have so much knowledge behind it too, to be able, because I'm one of those people, I'll fucking fact check your ass. Like, you're telling me about all this stuff. If I feel like it, I'm going to go look it up.
So would you have to be a genius to write for something like this?
Not necessarily, but you'd have to do so much research behind it. So you'd have to say, okay, I know the plot's going to go in this direction, and he's going to have to face this particular situation. I'm not only going to have to research the economics behind it, I'm going to have to research the psychology behind it. You know, every single little thing he's got to be able to put forth and present with this smartest character, because it has to come off like a brilliant character. And I don't know, maybe he's socially awkward and he doesn't get the social aspect of it, and so then he doesn't have to worry about that point. But if you have someone who's super smart, then he's analyzing everybody and be like, governor, you can, just higher than a governor, but whatever.
Governor.
President.
The president.
Whatever. You can't do this thing because of this part of your thing, your personality. So you need to work on this, and then you'll be able to handle these situations. I mean, what are you going to do?
By your logic, every single person who's ever written for Batman has done a shit ton of research, because that is the smartest man in the DC universe. Like, I know, yeah, there's one or two that are technically smarter, but it's like, no, Batman with his street smarts equals a greater smart than Mr. Terrific or even Ozymandias right now, Lex Luthor.
Well, with Batman, and yes, I would say they probably have researched a lot of things, but with Batman, there's also an aspect of incredibleness behind it. So could any person actually use a tiny ass little wire to swing from building to building through the city? No. But it's Batman, so we fucking believe it. So they don't have to research the psychology behind it, but now you're talking about a real world smartest man. Yes, you do need to research something.
Prodigy will publish under Image Comics, of course, in December, with the intention of Netflix adapting it into a television show. So this is the next one after Magic Order, I believe, to hit that Netflix adaptation. And if it's anything like Magic Order, sign me the fuck on. Like, I've already been up on this. Like, we've been Reborn is one of the Netflix, not even Netflix, I'm sorry. It's going to be a TV adaptation, although they have the option for Netflix to use it after he sold Millar World. And now with Prodigy, that is going to be another one that, and so far, the way he's handled Magic Order, it's still a good standalone comic without having it feel like it's just an adapted for television story.
I'm enjoying Magic Order as well. It's a little too dark for me. I think I liked Reborn better because there was so much in Reborn that was easy for the average viewer to digest. So I think it's good that Magic Order is just going to Netflix because it fits in very well with those Netflixy shows. And that you have, of course, Reborn going on television, which I think will be a really big hit.
Well, here's how you write for the smartest person in the world, according to his character. And we have a quote here from Mark Millar himself, who said, quote, "I wanted to write the smartest thing I've ever written."
Is he British?
Yes.
Oh.
And at the same time, and he has this exact terrible British accent, and at the same time top any action set pieces I've ever managed in the past. And I honestly couldn't be happier with how this turned out. Edison Crane is by far the best character I've created in my career, and I'm delighted that my genius friend, Rafa Albuquerque, is drawing the comic book side of all this. He's really one of the best artists in the world. End quote.
So just a quick question. Were you channeling Chef Ramsay at any point in that?
Yeah, Scottish and English.
And you're an idiot sandwich. I think it's great that he's so excited. You should be excited about what you're writing. You should be excited about the characters, and it sounds like he really is.
Comes off kind of pompous, though. Like, the smartest thing I've ever written.
Yeah, it probably is. If he's writing The Smartest Man and he did his research, I dare him to talk about food and beverage. I dare you.
Well, if Mark wants to come on the show and be the next guest, he can definitely answer any questions about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about food and beverage. That's what I want to talk to him.
I never have to work on Marvel or DC, and I never have to come on shitty podcasts. Like, damn, Mark.
I just have all the money. So much money.
Oh, Netflix. Call me Mark Netflix Miller.
No, it's Mark Netflix.
Well, it should be.
His name. I want him to officially change his name to Mark Netflix.
He's not wrong, though. Like, Albuquerque really is one of the best working artists right now, and I'm excited. If anything, you'll know the writing's solid, and you already know that the artwork's going to be amazing, and we got that same treatment with Magic Order. So this is definitely a must-sub, and as soon as it is in the previous catalog, I am on board.
Something else to add to your sub is the DC Black Label comics. So in order to keep copies of the upcoming oversized DC Black Label issue of Batman Damned #1 from getting damaged, DC Comics and Diamond Distributors will be shipping the comics in secure, separate boxes of 80 or shrink-wrapped in sets of 20.
That shrink wrap better be well done, because they have sent shrink wrap material for things that we give out for free. So a lot of the DC Nation, for example, that they send out, they're like these oversized Wizard World type of magazines, Wizard Magazine style, and some of the same workers have actually been working on DC Nation. But those books, because they're in that shrink wrap, they do get kind of curled and a little bit damaged, but it's like, who gives a shit, because it's free shit anyway. Like, they're just promo product. But with comic books, if they're going to do that same shrink wrap type of thing with these, it's like, no, you better do something else with that. And it's every set of 20, so I don't know, I'm a little nervous about that. Not about the box separate of 80 on Batman Damned #1, in which they are in cardboard. My shop, I don't think we're going to order that high on that one. Like, yeah, we have a lot of Batman subs and we have people that have been put down on this, but 80 is a high number. So instead, it sounds like we're going to get the shrink wrap 20. But I do like the idea of, okay, instead of just having people handle these straight up, throw them in boxes, and then along with other books, instead it's going to be like, no, these already come shrink wrapped. They already come boxed. So now Diamond has to then ship it with other product that is usually loose in those Diamond boxes.
So does this mean that you have to purchase a minimum of 20? Like, you have to purchase them in increments of 20?
That's a great fucking question, because what if you're only getting 3 or 4? I mean, it's Batman. No one's going to order less than 20, but what if you order 24?
Right.
Or like, yeah,
or like
I don't know.
30.
That's a really good
what
question.
What do you do then?
I'm assuming that you then get those loose in the Diamond box,
okay,
like every other comic. There's no way they're going to make us. No, fuck them if they do, but they're not. I already know that
right,
because we're putting in the orders on Monday.
Yeah, they would have specified
we'd
that.
We'd be talking about it.
Right. Fucking DC, that's what we'd be saying. Yeah. But instead you're like, oh, nice of them to wrap them for
us. These are going to be open order, so you can order as many copies as you'd like, but there's going to be a Jim Lee variant that is not incentive, not 1 in 10, not 1 in 20, 150, nothing. Every shop can order as many copies of a Jim Lee painted variant, and that's different because normally it's a sketch and then someone inks it and then someone colors it. But he's going to be doing a painting for Batman Damned #1. I still don't know what the variant looks like. I checked right before we recorded on Diamond. Jim, of course, just like he always does, doesn't have it finished in time.
Of course not.
Every time I put up, like, we have a new comic book day group at my comic shop on Facebook, and I put up the variants on there every week, because there's one, every time there's final order cutoffs, I'm like, my readers don't know, my subscribers don't know, and this happened for years, but I wasn't managing a store. Mm-hmm. And then finally I'm like, you know what, there has to be a way to just show them, like, hey, these are the covers, because I don't know. Like, I don't know how many I should order. You tell me. How many of you guys want to pre-order this cover? And I want to do this every week. So I created a Facebook group, and on there, I put up it takes me like an hour, but I put up all the variants, I put up the prices, the dates, and then I put it up as a post on that group, and I'm like, hey guys, order's going on Monday. Let me know how many you want, and we'll put it on there. So if someone wants 10 copies of a cover, you can have 10 copies, as long as it's ahead of time. Mm-hmm. But if it's after that final order cutoff, you are limited to 1 or 2 copies, and that's it. So that's whenever the Jim Lee ones come up, because those do very, very well, especially with Justice League. I can order a good amount of Jim Lee variants alone and not worry about the ones that are just for the stands that people are going to read, and I can double my profit, triple my profit just on those variants. So every time he does have one solicited, I go in there, I check right before I put it up on the group, and sure enough, the cover is not fucking done yet. Like, less than half the time, I've had a Jim Lee cover that I can put up and say, hey guys, here's that Jim Lee cover, and with Damned, it's still not done. I'm like, man, this is a $6.99 comic book. Have it finished, dude. I want to promote that. I want to sell that for you. Like, I know, like, the profit is probably minimal compared to the raise that he just got with the promotion, but help out your shops, man. Like, yeah, you're already doing the variant. That's going to be great, but for people like me, just do it for me. Like, that's really what I'm getting down to.
Just for me, Jim.
That's really what I'm getting down to.
You know this is going to sell, though. It always sells. Mm-hmm. And I think it's fantastic, because it would have been so easy for them to say, you're going to get 1 in every shrink-wrapped thing at 20.
Right.
That would have been so easy. And they said, you know what? No, because this is going to sell. And we love our readers, and we love our collectors, and we love our shops. So help yourself.
And to anyone saying, well, what are the print numbers on this? They're not really going to be. It's like, yeah, check the fucking prices a month after these Jim Lee covers release and tell me about that. These are going to be 8.5 by 10.8 inches. So this is a premium sized book, Batman Damned #1. We talked about it briefly when they first solicited this next iteration of DC Black Label. And the printing on it is on lighter stock, almost not quite newsprint, but around that type of paper to keep the cost down at $6.99, because one, it's a bigger format on it. There's more pages. There's no ads. So if they were to do it on the type of paper that they are using now for their regular books, this probably would have been a $9.99 issue. So instead, you print it on that cheaper paper, $6.99, and it makes it more affordable for everyone.
This is almost the size of a sheet of printer paper. That's huge. How are you going to store that shit?
You got to find a magazine bag and board. Hopefully your LCS carries those.
Boy. So final orders go in this Monday. So let your local comic shop know if you want it so they can pull it before then. So like you've mentioned many times, once that cutoff comes, it's very difficult for them to get those books back in. So try and tell them as early as possible.
We had a bit of a lighter news week this week, so we did ask for some submitted questions on the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. So we did get one on our Discord. It was kind of a last-minute type of thing, so we didn't get many. We got one from a Swaylock, at Swaylock, and that's actually spelled Alusnoc. And I finally learned how to spell it because I actually took the time to write down sort of what it sounded like when I was listening to their latest episode of the One Up Me podcast. And he asked, who would win in a battle to the death, Harley Quinn or Huntress?
I don't know Huntress well enough.
She is the daughter, alternate Earth, of Catwoman and Batman.
Well, I know who she is, but I don't think I've really ever read her character enough to really understand, like, who she is.
Mm-hmm.
To answer that correctly. I don't know. I don't know that I can do it.
I'm not going to answer it either. Like, it's depends on who's writing it.
Right, yeah.
Like, who's writing this story, and then I'll tell you who's going to win. Like, that happens all the time at the comic shop where they're like, hey, who would win between the Hulk and Superman? I'm like, I don't know. Who's writing it? Like, I always give that, like, non-satisfactory answer because it's never a right answer. You're always going to upset someone.
If Paul Dini was writing it,
then Batman and Superman.
Then they would both end up in their underwear giggling.
Oh, you're talking about Harley and Huntress?
Yes, and Huntress.
Or Bruce Timm if he were writing it.
Yes. That's what would happen.
Someone just shared a screenshot on Superman the Animated Series Twitter account with Harley Quinn and, oh man, Lex Luthor's assistant. She was in Mercy Graves. And it's the screenshot of Joker and Lex having a civil discussion, an argument, and then they're watching their hench women fight, and half their clothes is torn off.
Of course it is. That was the 90s for you.
But Mercy Graves made it to the big screen. That's pretty cool. She got blown up in that same government, what was it, the White House, I think, in Batman v Superman?
Yeah.
She was saving the seat for Lex Luthor, and then boom, got blown up.
And Lex knew it was going to happen. Beat Chant, Lex
Luthor. Evil.
I miss the 90s. You could get away with so much. You know, if they did that now, they'd be like, you can't put this in here.
Right. No, I miss some of the 90s. It wasn't great. Like, I get it.
What wasn't great about the 90s?
The culture, the music. Like, a lot of it was really trashy. I don't know. It's
all right. So I like early 2000s music better.
That might have been a little bit worse. No, that was the 90s for sure.
Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, they were 2000s.
Yeah. Like, you take that popular music and then you compare it to today's, and today's, I will argue, is significantly better than Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. Absolutely.
Like, no, there's no good boy bands these days.
I'm not talking about boy bands, just music in general.
I'm talking about boy bands. I'm talking about summer hits of the 2000s. Maroon 5. Maroon 5 has not gotten better, but I still listen to all their CDs.
Is that true? Are they worse? Or
I like songs about Jane. I thought they were better. They're more heartfelt.
What's he do now? Adam Levine?
He still sings in Maroon 5. They just released another album.
I thought they said, like, you told me that they were only going to do one more album.
Yeah, they were done, and then they released another one.
Fucking liars.
Because it makes money. I will see them in concert someday. I don't care that it's $400. I will see them in concert.
So you got some boy band talk of Swaylock. I hope that was satisfactory. That's where this rabbit trail led to. And that's all thanks to you.
I could have kept it going. It would have gone forever.
Well, this is a lighter news week, so by all means, feel free to, during the rest of the podcast here, the Brocat Block, where we talk about some of the biggest things that have happened to us during the week. And this is actually probably bulkier than our 3 news stories that we had. Aside from like of course, Disney's not going to hire a pedo perv and then everything else.
Pedo perv,
James Gunn. We're going to talk about it, and I'm going to bring it back to James Gunn in a second. Because we did get the Brocat Corps came through for the second fucking year in a row under Games and Hobbies. We had Brian Schaub, who is Mogo. We had the rest of the Corps members right up to different colors too. They're not all Green Lanterns. And they all united together and said, you fucking last year we didn't fucking win. We're going to get it this year. And they united and voted in as a giant wave of Brocat Corps members not only to nominate us for this year's podcast awards under Games and Hobbies as the 1 of 10 podcasts under that category, but also chose to be voters on the actual voting process when that does release. So it's a little bit over 1,000 voters that get randomly selected. And that was one of the important portions. And I've already seen some tweets from fellow Brokehead Core members that did get chosen as voters. And even the ones that didn't. This is the beautiful thing about our listeners is the ones that did get chosen, they're like, yep, I voted for you, obviously. And then everyone else who did get. And then the ones that did not get chosen said, hey, if you got voted to be a voter on the podcast awards, please vote for the Reasons I'm Broke podcast on the Games and Hobbies. Because they couldn't do it and they didn't get chosen. For whatever reason, I think the Brokehead Core members, because they know you, they know the Emperor Palpa Kelly, they should already have like a higher string of hierarchy.
Yeah. They had to keep it fair. That's what
true.
it was.
There's got to be a legitimate award show, even though the Emperor is involved in some way. Although you did lose last year.
It had to be fair. I couldn't make it look like, because if I go in, we've discussed this before, and I'm just a dictator taking what I want.
That's true.
Then what kind of emperor am I? I'm a shitty emperor. So I got to make it look like I'm not just taking what I want.
Well, this year for the 2018 Podcast Awards, thank you so much, listeners, again, for the second year in a row, for going through and nominating us on their Games and Hobbies. And they're going to announce the winner next month. It's going to be on the September 30th. That ends up landing on a Sunday. So they're going to be having this as a live stream, just like they did last year, where they announce the winners. They have the thank you, the thank you videos, and just like an acceptance speech type of thing. Although I will tell you this year, and a couple of listeners have pointed this out, and I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one that noticed. Our competition this year is actually even stiffer than it was last year. Like for the last year, Tell 'em Steve Dave wasn't on there, and now they are. They're not on the Games and Hobbies, just so you know. Otherwise, I'd be like, no, we fucking lost. They're on their People's Choice. And in Games and Hobbies, we have not only last year's winner, also nominated this year, so that's already one, like, oh shit. But the other one is Polygon Podcast is on there too. And to any gamer, they know who Polygon is. They're a big deal. They're right up there with Kotaku, Game Informer.
Oh, wow.
It is a massive type of news site, and they have a podcast made up of all women that are also nominated for the 2018 Podcast Awards on their Games and Hobbies. So the competition is stiff, and many more podcasts as well on their category. So what is that? 7 others, 2 more than us. So it's going to be a tough one to win, and if we do, like, that's going to be absolutely incredible. If we don't, we got nominated among Polygon and last year's winners. Like, it's insane that the Brokehead Core gifted us with this yet again for another year. So it's already a win of sorts. Like, I've already updated the graphics on Twitter. So the Twitter header has the 2017 and 2018 on YouTube. I've changed that up on our business cards just in case we do end up winning. I haven't printed out more business cards, but if we do, then it'll say winner instead of nominee. But if not, it does say nominee. So it is, I've already done within 24 hours, I started doing this because I try to stay on top of a lot of things. So this is another, I think another more evidence that the Brokehead Core are very passionate about our podcast. And I never would have thought that we would have ever gotten nominated for a podcast award when we started this back in 2012. And since then, a lot of amazing people have discovered our show. And because of that, it has become what it is. So I'm so happy that we got it again for this year.
Absolutely. It's always wonderful when these things happen. I mean, not just because to me, I sit down here every day and I'm like, oh man, nobody wants to listen to me. I'm dumb. I'm so boring. Like, my life outside is so boring. And then I sit here and people actually like to listen to me. And I have like 80 followers on Twitter.
Trying to get 100 before this month.
I'm sure.
That's a campaign, Kelly.
Okay. Palpa tweets.
There you go. Palpa tweets. That's pretty good.
So, yes, from both of us, of course, thank you so much for this opportunity. And just to be nominated, like you said, is a huge gift for us. And, you know, if we win...
That'd be amazing.
It would be because you all chose us and not because I inflicted my palpiness.
That's right. That's right. It's true. one of the things that I said I'd bring this back to Pedo Perv James Gunn is that if
Is this where you're gonna bring him? Okay.
this is exactly where, because we've seen more traffic on our website because we got nominated, because before you vote, you're encouraged to listen to the other shows, and they have links up there to their website, to their iTunes, Stitcher, everything. And when we got that extra traffic, I was thinking, if any of these people are pedo apologists, any of these voters, they're not going to like that episode, the latest one that they listened to, because we do straight up call James Gunn a pedo perv. So I'm like, man, that may cost us the podcast awards.
Because
God damn it, James Gunn.
My mom was talking tonight. We were telling, my parents that we were nominated, of course, because it's a big thing in our life. And Mom's like, I'm going to have to listen. I'm like, no, Mom. Don't listen to the podcast, Mom.
Not safe for work.
Nope.
Not at all.
Definitely not safe for moms.
That's where my mind went to immediately. Like, oh man, I hope these people when we first started, we tried to be way more, I guess, politically correct and more safe about our opinions and very neutral. But I'm like, you know what? That's not colorful. Like, we have to be colored. We have to show ourselves. It's boring to, at least to me, to kind of restrict what we're trying to think or say. And to some extent, I guess we do with everything that happens in everyday life. But with the podcast, it's like, no, like, let's just let it out, man. Let's just talk about our actual opinions. People want to, even if they disagree, and many of them probably do about many of the things we talk about, I think it's because we do put a little bit of flavor in all of that they're like, you know what? This is why they maybe possibly tune in every week or possibly vote for the podcast awards. I have no idea. I am not a Brokehead Core listener, I guess. I'm just Darth Daniel. I'm just over here behind the scenes.
Just chilling. That's what we do. I think it is because we're so colorful. I think we're very colorful. And because we talk about Dad Jita.
We sound like Mark Millar now.
I'm the smartest person in the world. It's the best character I've ever created. I want Mark Millar to be one of the voters. And he's like,
fuck you guys.
No. You assholes. We really do like Mark Millar.
We do. We'd like him even more if he voted.
Oh. We would like you all more if he voted.
So what else is going on this week? Do you have something right away? Because I know I've got my Netflix queue that I'm now going to watch not only Seinfeld on Hulu all day, but also Seinfeld on Netflix with the comedians.
Go ahead and talk about that.
I just discovered that Seinfeld apparently has been doing this web show that was on Crackled, and it's not a network that we have. But now Netflix has the rights or the production rights to Seinfeld's show that he's apparently been doing for like 12 seasons or something. And it's all about him sitting in a car and going to get coffee and breakfast with a different comedian. And every year, I guess, he comes out with 10 episodes or so. And he's had Michael Richards on there, other members from Seinfeld, and then big comedians like Chappelle. This year, he had Chappelle, he had Ellen DeGeneres just now. And I was like, okay, I thought this was just like a new Netflix production. Man, they paid Seinfeld a shit ton of money. And instead, this has been going on for years. And they have most of the episodes on Netflix. And I just discovered this. And I'm like, man, I've been missing out on so much Seinfeld material all these years.
It was pretty good. I watched a few episodes with you. It's always interesting to me when Seinfeld talks to people because he's not a very personable guy, I guess. He just says what he's feeling, even if it's not popular opinion. And that rubs people the wrong way. So, for example, Ellen DeGeneres is a huge animal activist. And Seinfeld obviously knew that. And he's talking about pate and stuffing gooses and slaughtering them. And I'm just like, oh, man.
Yeah, you can tell in the interview, like, Ellen does not like Jerry at all. She's just ready to finish this interview and probably never see him again. Jed mentioned that they hadn't seen each other in years. And it's going to continue after that interview.
There's a reason, and it will continue forward.
So what about you? What else has been happening?
It's been a pretty boring week for me. Just going to work, raising Leo. He's growing big. It's so much fun to see his little personality come out.
No, he's a little stinker now. Like this week, he decided to be a fucking brat. He decided, all right, I am old enough now to decide I'm going to be an asshole this week. And he is. He's been a dick for the last 2 days.
Yes, he's discovered that he can just scream when he wants something.
Correct.
And so he just screams, and of course he can't communicate really. So me saying, okay, Leo, you need to use your words. Leo, you can't just scream. And then he's like, ah! Like it
It's
just
like a
doesn't-
shriek. It's
Yes.
not even like a yell or a scream. It is like a shriek, like an angry, like when you're a parent, you recognize like your cries. All the
Right.
cries mean something. And with this, it's like, I remember like yesterday or the day before, I'm like, he's just being a little brat.
Yeah.
Like this, he's not in any pain. He's not like starving, nothing. Like he's just wants something. So he's going to yell because he discovers that yelling what has gotten him all this throughout his whole fucking life.
Right, right.
So now it's like, it's now, okay, this is now we're parenting at like really parenting of like, no, Leo. And that's one of the things that we're going to have to be good about is because if we yell back, he's going to get used to yelling.
Right.
And he's going to continue to yell after that because that's now another form of communication. So instead, tomorrow when I have to watch him, if he starts yelling at me, I would just be like, all right, man, we're not going to do this. We're cool.
Right.
You can yell all you want. It's not going to work with my ass.
Every parent everywhere is like, yes, I remember. Well, it's funny. So there's someone in my new place that I work. There's a mom, and she has 2 boys. They're 1 and 2. They're 13 months apart. She's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking in the office the other day, and somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Kelly, how was your weekend?" I'm like, "It's fine, but my kid's an asshole."
It's true.
And they're like, "Kelly, you can't say that about your child." And then my new coworker walks in. She goes, "No, my kids are assholes all the time. Like, this is what moms do." And then we talk to each other about our asshole kids. And then we all go, "Oh, man, I know, right?" And then you go about your day. And it's true. Like, Leo really is a great baby. He is very calm and mild-mannered the majority of the time.
However,
some days, he's a little asshole. And that has been recently when he wants something and
For the
screams
past 2
at
days,
me.
yeah.
Yes. So I'm trying to teach him sign language so he can communicate with us. But that's difficult going because he just wants to scream instead.
The other thing that happened to me this week, and I mentioned last week, and this was before we hit it, is that the shop was hitting its 1-year anniversary, the one I manage. And now we had that on Saturday, and it pretty much was like a free comic book day
Wow.
event. It was bigger than we anticipated. Like the owner and I always have like this thing, all right, what do we think the crowd is going to be? What do we think the totals are going to be? What do you think is going to be the highest column as far as sales? And it exceeded our expectations across all fronts. And it was just a great type of celebration, not only of the comics and all the things that we have in the store, but of the support from the community and the different subscribers. And this is something that I mentioned because I do a little live video on Tuesday showing off the new books, and it's because of the people that we have seen since August of 2017, and then everyone in between that we exist still, like as a comic shop. So it was more of a celebration of the customers and of the subscribers and of the many people we've met from last year, from before that. And then everything in between, even if we just met them last week and they're coming out again to celebrate our 1 year. Some were coming in for the very first time ever and they're like, holy crap, there's balloons and stuff in here. You know? So it's next time they come in, they're going to be very disappointed.
You're just going to have balloons every day.
Every day. Like we'll do a countdown. Like today's our 1 year and 1 day annual celebration, and we wouldn't be wrong. So I want to do that every year though, because at the previous shop I worked at, they didn't really do a yearly type of annual event. Instead, it was like every 5 years or so. And with this shop, it's something that I definitely want to champion is, all right, let's do our 2 year, let's do our 3 year and 4 year. Not only is it another excuse for people to get free comic books, but it's another sale that we can run. It's another celebration of the community, the subscribers, the shop, the customers, the product, the hobby that we all share in, the hobby that you and I, listeners, share in. So it's all of that kind of encapsulated into a locally owned comic book little store. So it was a great experience. I just was a little bit overwhelmed by the support and the response, and it was just all good feelings though. Like there was obviously your hiccups of like, oh my God, that shelf fell because it's busy as hell in here. But it all comes with it, right? It is a free comic book day event. And yeah, it was just a nice thing for me to experience as a manager. It's kind of like, all right, we're doing something right.
That's great. You've put in enough hours that I'm very excited that you're getting to see that payoff.
No, I agree. It's definitely like a confirmation of everything thus far. But if I let myself kind of go, okay, we got there. Like, that's when things go to shit.
Of course.
So I'm still like, no, we're not there yet. Like, I want to see double next year. I want to see, like, it's just, you got to keep aiming.
Of course.
And maintaining as well. I think that's the other important part.
Look at you being all a manager. 10 years ago when I met you at the mall.
Just this lowly GameStop worker type of guy.
Yeah. Just this young guy just trying to find some ladies. And now here we are.
I was a DJ back then. Thank you.
Yeah, trying to find the ladies.
It's not why I DJ'd. I still listen to house music. By the way, you guys should check out Nexus Radio. I'm going to plug that. I've never talked about it. Every now and again, I share like music that I listen to just so people kind of learn some of my personal tastes. Yeah, get to know me a little bit better, even though it has nothing to do with what we're talking about or have been talking about for the last 15 minutes or so. But the Nexus Radio music station, I really recommend. It's got some of the top 40 stuff that you hear on the radio today. Mostly it's remixes of those songs, but they're still really fucking solid, which is why I still think that it's like, no, these are really good songs and these are really good tunes. But if you ever want to hear some nice electro house music, future house, definitely go to Nexus Radio. Google, I don't know the exact website because I just have it saved on my phone as like an app and I just play it from there and I stream it. But you can listen to it anywhere, and that's where I was going with that.
And if you want to listen to the music I listen to, go to Pandora and type in summer hits of the 2000s.
There you go.
And that is Kelli's music.
But that is, I believe, it for the Brocat block for us. Let's head into our Patreon shoutouts for the week. That people that made the quality of what then people nominated as Brocat Core members nominated the reasons I'm broke as the 2018 Podcast Awards on the Games and Hobbies. People that make the show possible, the quality of the show. Patreon shoutouts of the week.
This week we have 3 shoutouts. The first one goes out to Kyle, whose Twitter handle is @KyleInge.
Kyle ended up snapping a selfie of himself with the UCF Knight, a.k.a. Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist.
They do look very similar. They could be brothers.
Exact same fuking character. Affirmation Sue. No, I'm kidding. Don't do it.
Don't sue UCF.
A lot of people like UCF on here.
Yes, a lot of people do. I have my own thoughts about UCF, but please continue on.
Was it You Can't Finish? Is that the thing? Robin on Instagram @RobinConcepts, and you saw this piece.
I did.
He posted a digital art piece this month of Man-Bats.
It's beautiful. It looks amazing. Man-Bat's all like, nah, motherfucker. And Batman's all like, gonna take you down, asshole.
The exact concept, the caption was Batman saying something along the lines of, I can help you, Dr. Langstrom. Like he's trying to calm him down and relax him. And that's such a Batman fucking thing to
Batman.
do. And the Batman knows he's going to have to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And
then trank him. And then he's going to be like, and turn back into Langstrom. And then he's going to have to put him in a vat of goo because that's what always happens until the stuff can work its way out of the system. Batman.
Batman's fucking awesome. And this piece is really cool. So definitely check him out on Instagram @RobinConcepts.
And our final shout out goes out to Matt, whose Twitter handle is @MrForklift.
He ended up tweeting out the following, which I very much agree with. Quote,
adding a category for Best Popular Picture is not the way the Academy should address the bias that has been in Best Picture nominations and wins for the last 40 plus years. One category can suffice as long as people are willing to let true competition occur versus being snobs. The creation of new Best Picture categories happens when the Academy doesn't like something. When Beauty and the Beast crashed the party in 91/92, we had to start separating animation. This is ridiculous, particularly from a group that recognized a lot of popular movies in the 60s and 70s. End quote.
Yet another Brocat Core member who understands what the fuck is going on here.
I think he put it just right on point. That's exactly how we feel about it. That's how I felt for years when Beauty and the Beast almost won. Oh, now we need animation too. Nope. Oh, we only had 5. Now we need 10 movies.
I fucking hate that shit.
And I feel for them in the sense that I feel like they're trying to do this to pull in younger viewers because they're losing viewership all the time. They really are. But this is not the way to do it. You're still not making it exciting. You're just frustrating those of us who enjoy watching it. You're making it a longer show that people don't even want to see. I jump on the internet the day after, see who won, and look at the clothes. That's all I care about.
People that did have any legitimacy towards it, which were Kelly and I, like we watch the Oscars every year, and it's, you're really losing us now if you're adding all kinds of nonsense categories, and especially transparent type of categories where it's like Disney told you to do this so one of their fucking movies can win, one of their Star Wars or Marvel movies can win something.
Right.
And it's unsettling, and it sucks, and it further legitimizes the Oscars. So there's that.
Which you should tune in for.
Absolutely, every year.
Can we get dressed up for the Oscars this year?
We do every year.
We get dressed up?
Yep, I mention it every time. You always say that on the Oscars too, and I'm always like, we are dressed up. They can't tell the difference. We're dressed up right now for the Oscars. This is the suit I'm probably going to try to wear for the next one. Just wore it so that you can, give me your opinion on it.
Danny, that's pajamas.
You're not playing along.
Oh, I mean, yes, what a lovely suit.
We also want to thank DecalAvenue.com for the help at the $5 Patreon reward tier. Head on over to patreon.com/TheReasonsI'mBroke for your shout out every single month. $1. One single dollar. If you feel like, you know what? They definitely should have been nominated for the 2018 Podcast Awards. Here's $1. Head on over to patreon.com/TheReasonsI'mBroke, and you too can get your shout out. I will stalk your Twitter and or Instagram for material for your shout out every single month.
You get more than just the shout out, though. You also get the podcast early. Soon as Daniel's done editing it, boom, there it is in your inbox. You just click it and you have the podcast early before anybody else.
That's right. If you want to help out the podcast as well, if you're like, I don't have $1 to spare every month, leave us a podcast review on Apple Podcasts. The latest one comes from Davis H. Left us a review on iTunes, and it says, quote, "This is my favorite podcast out there. I've listened to every episode at least twice. If you're looking for a podcast that'll keep you informed about pop culture and the good laugh, this is it." End quote for the review.
Now, you almost slipped up there and said pulp culture.
I would not have been wrong.
Which you would not have been wrong, because it is the culture of Kelli. That was very kind things to say. Thank you, David H.
Davis,
I'm sorry.
Kelli.
David, listen, I changed his name.
He's now legally known as David. I'm sure he gets that all the time, too, because me as Daniel, I get David all fucking day. So he must get it even more.
Kelli instead of Kelli every day.
Well, with yours, it's Kelli with a Y that they end up fucking up.
My favorite is they're like, oh, is it Kelli with an I? And I'm like, and then they go E, and I'm like, you just went too far.
Like, you were right for a second.
You went too far.
No, thank you, Davis. That's amazing. Thank you so much for the iTunes review. And you too, it helps other podcasts, or I'm sorry, all listeners discover the podcast for iTunes if you just leave us a review on there. And it takes two minutes and goes a long way.
Doesn't take long, yeah.
Let's head into our comic book review before we head into our interview for the week.
Like we said in the very beginning, our comic book review this week is Adventures of the Super Sons #1. This is of 12. It's written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by Carlo Barberi and the colorist Proto-Bunker.
Proto-Bunker, fucking colorist.
You said that way too. Like, man, Proto-Bunker.
It's a colorist, is it not?
It's a great colorist name.
Is there anything wrong with the name? Like, if you see colorist next to it, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, Proto-Bunker.
That's the first time we've had to say fucking Proto-Bunker on the goddamn show. And
we've said Proto-Bunker like 47 times already. Can we name this episode Proto-Bunker? Can we get Proto-Bunker on the show? I want to ask Proto-Bunker about his Proto-Bunkin name.
Is that a cuss now?
B-Chan and Proto-Bunkin.
The Adventures of the Super Sons. People were legitimately worried like it was a national disaster. I remember at the comic shop they were saying, how could they cancel the Super Sons? And it was all ages. It was people younger than I. and then
Than
people in
people
their
older
40s
than
and
you.
50s. Like, it was like a wide spectrum. Literally, it was really a high spectrum because everyone enjoyed the Super Sons. It was
Right.
a book for everyone. Even though I think Peter J. Tomasi aimed it mainly at like teenagers,
Of course.
maybe lower 20s, there was enough in there to where I could be wrong. Like, I'm sure Peter actually aimed it for everyone because there's so much parenting in Super Sons that flowed over from Superman that it just worked for everyone. And it was such a worry and such a frenzy for a lot of readers when they were saying it wasn't not selling one. I'm like, no, it was selling great. It's going to be fine. Peter on Twitter just said that it's not over. Like, he said, whoa, I didn't know that you guys were panicking about this, but no, it's not over. We still have more Super Sons. And what ended up happening is Bendis obviously wanted to have his Superman run without Lois Lane, without Jonathan Kent Jr. And DC went, well, there's such a good thing here. And I would have been like, okay, Bendis, you're not writing Superman. This is what I would have told him. Like, and I like Superman just fine, but Peter J. Tomasi's Superman is way better so far. So I would have just told him whatever. But they kind of did the compromise because they said, okay, we're going to continue Tomasi's Super Sons as a 12-issue maxi series, but this takes place before Bendis' run. And we're
Right.
like, great, more Super Sons. I don't care when it fucking takes place.
It was a really good issue. It was a lot of fun. Is it weird, though? I looked at the cover and I was like, oh, Damien's hair is really cute. That would look nice on our son someday.
I'm not a fan.
No?
Not a fan.
On little kids, it's so cute. Have you not seen little kids with that haircut?
Yeah, they look like little douchebags.
So, and is our kid not a douchebag this week?
For the last 2 days, yes, but we're not going to raise him to be one. He's not going to be a Damian Wayne.
You don't want to? Okay, anyway. This was
No, I don't want a murderer.
This was a lot of fun. So we get a pretty big villain reveal at the end.
Villains? Yeah, several of them.
Are these new villains? Have we ever seen
That's
them
what I was
before?
wondering, too. I want to say no. I
Okay.
feel like we've seen... Because, okay, it's junior versions of villains that we are... Big villains in the DC
Right.
universe. And I feel like we have seen them before. And there's not a shit ton of speculators that have come up like, oh, these are first appearances. So I don't think that it is.
Okay.
But it's really cool the way they introduced them, at least in the DC Rebirth universe, because it is the first time that we see them in Rebirth.
I thought it was a really fun issue. We get to, of course, see the classic Jonathan Damien best friends, but Damien's still an asshole and still kind of making fun of him. And we get to see that great interaction. We get to see that their super fortress is rebuilt and that it's all cool.
Yeah.
And Damien's just like, yeah, my dad does this shit. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. We get to see Alfred, who doesn't love Alfred. But then, of course, at the end, like you said, all those mini villains. So I feel like it's going to be very much like a classic Batman and Superman story, but a lighter version and a more fun version, because you have these same villains, but now they're all kids. So they're going to think like kids. They're not going to have the same experience, you know, that their dads or their older version have. And there's just so much that you can do with it. It's always a fun time in Super Sons.
The variant of Super Sons ended up being an unused cover for Super Sons. And some people were getting shitty with them on. They're like, we're just using unused art. It's like, fuck off. It's a good fucking piece.
Or you could
Shut
just
up.
not have a variant.
Yeah, we're not going to do variants then. Like, we'll just cancel.
Ooh, why would you do that? Just do new stuff.
And it was a really good variant, too. We sold out of that really quick.
Wow.
And then we actually sold out of the main cover, too. So recently we got reorders. And I was very curious how it was going to do, because I was worried that because it did have that like month or two pause, that it was going to lose that readership.
Right.
Not the case. It actually ended up being stronger in sales.
That's great.
Because number ones do sell. As much as people complain about them, they work. And it did work with Super Sons in this case. We enjoyed the story. It's still Peter J. Tomasi, which is what I wanted.
Right.
It's not the same artist. It's not Pat Gleason, unfortunately. And Pat Gleason is not helping with the story either, which he was listed on Super Sons. So that's one unfortunate thing. However, we still have Tomasi, who killed it on Superman and Super Sons. This is just a continuation. If you were down for Super Sons, stay on for the Adventures of Super Sons.
And if you weren't down for Super Sons, I think you can still pick up Adventures of Super Sons and not feel lost.
Absolutely.
You can just continue on. Like we said, it's a really fun ride.
And I think it is going to be a one arc 12-issue story. They did that with Raven recently. So it's not going to be a broken up story of like, okay, this is 3 stories and that, or, you know, in 12 issues.
Right.
It's going to be one story. So be sure to pick it up from number 1 while you still can.
And that does wrap up my portion of the podcast. We do, of course, still have our interview at the very end, but I, as always, was taking care of little Leo.
One day we'll have you on one of these interviews.
One
I would
day.
love to have you on
It
there.
would be great when our child is maybe sleeping through the night and can spend the night at Nana and Papa's house.
There we go.
That is the dream. That is where we are aiming for.
Yeah, we were able to get Another great interview this week with Treasure Hunting Sonic. If you go to his Instagram, it is absolutely amazing. The kind of stuff and collections that he does have for Sonic the Hedgehog, and we're going to go into that with the interview. But as always, the Emperor bids her farewell to the rest of the Brocat Corps.
Brocat Corps, all will be well.
And welcome, Brocat Corps, to the interview portion of this week's podcast. On here, we have, if you go on Instagram, you will find that a lot of the stuff, if you go to what has the reasons I'm broke liked and what are they following, one of the many Instagrams you'll see, and one of the most impressive ones is Treasure Hunting Sonic. It's at Treasure Hunting Sonic, exactly what it sounds like. And yes, it is Sonic the Hedgehog that he is treasure hunting. You'll see tons of pictures, over 4,000 followers, tons of pictures of all kinds of merch and artwork and anything Sonic the Hedgehog that you can think of. Sonic and Friends, the universe of Sonic, you will find on this Instagram, on his Twitter, and that we have today at Treasure Hunting Sonic himself. Thank you so much for coming on the show this week.
Thanks for having me.
So you have been collecting Sonic merchandise, Sonic items, Sonic, what do you call them? Treasures, right? Is every one of those things you collect a treasure?
Every one of them.
Since 95?
Yes.
1995. So what was it that got started? What sparked you on this quest to collect all of these things?
Well, believe it or not, my first experience with Sonic wasn't a very good one. I actually played Sonic and Knuckles at a kiosk in Target around the time it came out. I want to say late 1994. Mm-hmm. And it started up on Mushroom Hill Zone, and I couldn't figure out how to get through the first loop. You know, I thought you had to like spin the D-pad on the Genesis controller or something. I had trouble getting past it, and I was like, I don't really like this that much. Well, around January, February of 95, my friend actually rented the game from Blockbuster, and I was over at his house, and he showed me how to play it. And you know, I felt really dumb because all you had to do was hold right, and he would run through the loop. So I actually took it over to my house for the night, played it pretty much all night, and I loved it. So I instantly fell in love with the game. I went and I bought I think I rented Sonic 2 the following day. Went to Blockbuster Games, if you remember that. It was a game store. And bought Sonic 3 for $60, and that was, you know, my first Sonic item technically. But then for my birthday of February 1995, my 6th birthday, I was collecting. Do you remember Beast Wars Transformers?
Yeah, I love Beast Wars.
Yeah, I always did too. I loved it, and I collected those. And we went to Toys R Us. My mom took me to Toys R Us with my birthday money, and I was going to buy, you know, a few of those. I'm looking at them, and I hear her say, "Hey, Justin, isn't this based off that game you're always playing?" And I turn around, and she's holding up Sonic issue 19 from the Archie comics. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it is." And she was like, "Oh, well, do you want to go ahead and get this too?" You know, it was only like, you know, $1.99 back then, I believe.
Sure.
So I took that home, and I read it, and I loved it. Very next day, I pulled out the Yellow Pages, and I found a local comic store. And I begged her to take me. And I don't remember if it was the next day or the next weekend or whatever, but I remember just walking in the door, like they had a kids comic section, and I saw issue 18 and a bunch of others. And I think it was like 4 or 5 issues, and I went ahead and got all those. That was, you know, when my obsession with the comic started. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. I mean, I was also lucky enough to get the internet at a very young age. I believe it was like late 97 when we got the internet. I learned how to create accounts on eBay and stuff. I was like 9 years old. You know, my mom had no idea how to use eBay, but I did. So I started buying, you know, I think it started off like one of the plushes, a poster. Remember that little talking plush that you press his stomach and he screams Sega?
No, that one I've never seen. This is the first time I hear of this one.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, it does the Sega scream when you press his stomach. But now when you press it, it sounds like he's burping because the batteries are pretty much dead. So you can only really change the batteries if you know somebody that knows how to do like plush surgery. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of like snowballed from there, and then just kept going with that.
So it really, that's really appropriate too that you're on The Reasons I'm Broke, because it really kicked off with obviously the video game, but then the comics, and then from there it transitioned into everything else, right?
Yep.
So which of the comics do you have every single issue of Sonic the Hedgehog so far?
I don't. I actually got out of the comics for a while. just because I think it was around like right before issue 100, like in the late 90s, whatever. The writing got kind of bad, the art got bad. I wasn't. It was at a point where I wasn't interested in the comic at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got out of it for a couple years. I think I did buy some issues that I picked up, just because they're Sonic, and if I happen to see them at somewhere, and like when they like completely, redid the staff and bought in Ian Flynn, Tracy Yardley, all of them, and kind of did a reboot. I picked it up again, and I loved it.
When I came across your Instagram account, and then you actually ended up contacting the local store that I work at, and I don't know if that was just a coincidence or if you knew, but it sounds like it was a coincidence, because then I'm like, holy crap, this guy is local as well. Like, I've got to have him on. I've got to talk to him.
Yeah, that was total coincidence.
That's crazy.
Because I went up there to just do some toy hunting at Walmart and Target and stuff, and there was a couple other comic stores up there. I think they're gone now, but I remember putting in just comic stores on Google Maps, and I saw Coliseum and Comics, and it had just opened.
Yeah.
And so I definitely had to check that out. I think I bought a Pennywise pop that day.
That's been a very popular pop still. Like, we sold one this week, and I just put in a reorder today.
Oh, cool.
No, that's amazing though. That's awesome. And even the new series that has come out has gotten such positive reception. I think it's just because Ian has been able to, and the rest of the crew have been able to kind of almost restart their Sonic without all of the strings attached of all of these previous arcs and authors and artists. And it really feels like it's closer to the video games than ever before.
Oh, for sure. And, the Sonic community was just so relieved when they actually hired back, some of these Archie people like, Ian Flynn and Tracy Arley and Matt Herms, and especially, Tyson Hesse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his last name correctly.
I believe it is, yeah.
But that was a big relief. And, a common complaint that I hear from a lot of the Archie fans is that, I miss this character, I miss that character, where's all these other characters? And I see where they're coming from, don't get me wrong, but it got to a point where there were just so many characters, and like 90% of them did nothing. They were just like drawn into the background or something. And you had characters, that were from the original Saturday morning cartoon that were still in the comic, but their story arcs, they had good story arcs back in the day. They came full circle, they were finished, but you can't just write off all the characters. So, they were basically just there to be there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the characters too there's a lot of legalities as far as which characters belong to who. And even if, Ian and company can use these characters, they're not going to put them all in right off the bat in issue 1. The story has to unfold. Right. They have to introduce or reintroduce a lot of these characters. The first time you see Knuckles in this new continuity or this new story, and then Shadow, and it's not like you're seeing them all at once. And I think they're really taking their time and making sure that the story serves the characters appearing and serves that purpose.
Right.
Out of the comic characters, the video games, speaking of all of that, which is your favorite Sonic character? Like, is the obvious answer Sonic, or is it actually someone else?
Believe it or not, it's Eggman.
Really? Eggman?
Yes.
Why is that?
I just always found him really hilarious. I always really liked his original art, and it fascinates me that he was based off Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And, it may amaze me even more when I first saw the Sonic Boom art, that even like the Sonic Boom Eggman is based off Teddy Roosevelt in like his army uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really like how they kept that theme. And so yeah, Eggman's always been my favorite. And I'm also a real big fan of. Did you ever play Sonic Adventure?
I played the first one. I never beat it. I was more of a Sonic Adventure 2 player.
Do you remember the character E102 Gamma, the robot?
Yes.
I was always a big fan of him, just because I really liked his story. Spoiler alert, he died in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought his story was great. Robot that develops like its own like unique sentience, and ends up sacrificing himself so the animal that's inside him can be free. And that's a lot of the reason I don't like Shadow. Like, I am not a Shadow fan. I liked him in Sonic Adventure 2. I kind of wish they would have left him after that, because he had like a perfect ending, and then they bought him back, and now he's just kind of like overused, I guess. I know I'm going to make a lot of people angry saying that.
No, you're not wrong, because the story itself, it's like, why is Shadow here? He had his story. We kind of saw it, but I mean, I don't blame them at the same time, because that's Shadow merch or Shadow comics that they could be selling, and they even spun out a whole video game for him.
Right. And, I see why people like Shadow. He's like the Vegeta to Sonic.
Right.
But So I see why people like him, but I really like the ending to that first story he had in Adventure 2. And that's, going back to what I was saying about Gamma. That's one thing I really liked about him is that they didn't try to bring him back in any weird way. They did have another character that's similar called E102 Omega, but it's not the same character.
Gotcha.
So
where do you stand on my favorite Sonic character, Knuckles the Echidna?
I like him. I've always liked him. I see why people don't like the version of him in Sonic Boom because they made him like overly dumb, I guess. So sometimes it's funny, but sometimes they just go way too far with it. But overall, I really like Knuckles, and especially in those new Mania cartoons, I really like his art.
Mm-hmm.
His main he cares about that Master Emerald. He's not trying to be friends with anyone. He's not trying to go on any epic quest or save a city, save the planet. He just wants his little Master Emerald on his island.
Have you already beaten both Sonic Mania versions? Do you own every single version of that game, like the Xbox One and the PS4, whenever it's made it available as a physical?
I do have the physical version, but only for Xbox One. I don't really go for, unless there's like console exclusive stuff, I really won't, buy the same game on, more than one console.
What if there's different editions, like a standard one and then a collector's?
I will. I did that with Sonic Generations and, a couple other games, but I do want to get the Japanese collector's edition of Mania Plus. That was pretty cool. Came with like the soundtrack and some other stuff.
Yeah, I missed that one. Was it much bulkier than what we got?
Not a whole lot. Okay. But I was about to order it the other day to import it, but I actually want to challenge myself because here's one thing I like about I try to do. Being called Treasure Hunting Sonic, I like to actually go out and find the stuff. Like I try to use ordering online as like the last resort. Anything that is possible to find in the store, like personally, I try to do it. Mm-hmm. I went to Japan earlier this year.
I saw the pictures.
Right. And, I loved it so much. Me and my wife actually decided to go back again next year. We just bought plane tickets to go back in late March. I actually want to see if I can find that, myself, the collector's edition.
A lot of collectors I've noticed from all the years that working at the comic shop, we have a system with all of us that it's like, hey, if you're looking for a particular issue, we can put out a call to all of our stores in the chain. And then if they have it, they'll send it to our store and we'll give you a call. And I've had, a lot of people are like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. Like, I don't have to get online. I can actually look at it and all that. But some are like, the hunt is a part of it. Don't worry about it. So they kind of want to come across it. And I think that's the same mentality that a lot of collectors, I think, share.
Right. And, to a lot of people, like a lot of my friends and stuff, like it doesn't make sense. They're like, oh, you've been driving around to a bunch of GameStops looking for, this one Sonic, this one pack of Sonic figures or this one item. Why don't you just order it online? I'm like, that's not why I do this. That's not what makes it fun. Mm-hmm. I guess it's kind of like the same thing. Like, a hunter can go out and, hunt an animal, or you can just, buy the meat at a store.
Right.
But,
has that been your major challenge in collecting Sonic throughout all these years? Just been, trying to find it at the right place, or what has been that you find the biggest challenge in treasure hunting?
Well, a lot of Sonic stuff is just made in such limited quantities. Even if you get something that's like, mass produced, like, those new watches that have been coming out from AccuTime. I don't know if you've seen those pictures on my Instagram. Like,
yeah,
Walmart
I did.
Yeah, like, they'll make a ton of like the Mario and Pokemon, Ninja Turtles, but then the Sonic ones, like when they get a shipment, you'll find like one or two. So, and it seems like they're made for such a limited time as well, not just limited quantity, but limited time. So that's probably been the biggest challenge is finding, stuff, in the store at the right time. And a lot of places, like with the Archie comics, for example, like a lot of comic stores, only ordered a couple copies of every issue. And then it's very rare to find any back issues. It's always been a challenge.
Yeah, it's always also been one of the things with the new series. It's gone out of print quickly, and then they've done like the second printings, which feature like an all new cover, which is great. And then at this point, I think at this point most comic shops have their balance ordered. Like, okay, now we know we can at least sell X amount of copies and not be stuck with too many and overstock. But at the very beginning, it was pretty tough to find a lot of those variants, especially that 1 in 100. It's unless you have at least 50 subscribers that all put themselves for Sonic, it's really hard to justify ordering 100 of them.
Oh, for sure. And I really don't even see the point of that because unless, you're some like huge comic retailer, maybe like Mile High Comics or one of those. I really don't see like a lot of local comic stores getting those. So, but I also thought, because Archie, they did variants too, but for most issues it would only be like cover A and cover B.
Mm-hmm.
But IDW, I mean, man, they're really ramping it up with the variants.
Yeah.
Trying to remember which ones I have and don't have, that gives me a headache sometimes.
Plus they have like the convention exclusives on top of that.
Right. And I think for the first issue there was a total of, if you count every reprint, every retailer exclusive, convention exclusive, I think there was about 15 or 16 covers.
Wow, I believe it completely. Yeah, I mean, just from the 1 in 100, the A's and B's, 1 in 10, 1 in 25, that's already 5 or 6 right there.
Yeah, because originally it was 12, and then they did the reprints, the box with a hat that I bought from you guys that had the blank cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did that Spencer's one for Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, and I do wish also that they would do more blank covers, because Archie never did any what they're called, sketch covers, right?
Right.
Yeah, they never did any sketch covers, and I do wish IDW would do more of those, because that is, whenever you meet a Sonic artist at a convention, that is something that's pretty fun to do.
Exactly, because they can write it, they can do it on a piece of paper and you can frame it that way, but they do it on a comic book that already has that sheet that's made for it, you can store it much easier without having to worry about going out and getting a frame. You can get a nice Mylar bag and board, store it in that, and you'll know the artwork's going to be preserved on top of the comic.
Exactly.
You had mentioned the watches that you're hunting down right now. What has been... there's 2 parts to this question. What is your holy grail as far as what you're looking for that you haven't found yet?
Oh, that's a tough one. A couple things come to mind. The first thing would be a plush of that character E102 that was released in Japan back in I believe it was late 98. There was actually Sonic Adventure plush lines released, and the first set made it to America, and that one's a lot more common. But the second one was exclusive to Japan, and it had characters like E102, Amy Rose, Eggman, and those are extremely rare. And I've never owned Gamma, and that's definitely like one of my biggest like holy grails. And I think the last time I saw them online, I think it was like $2,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Then the other one would probably be the 10th anniversary Sonic Dreamcast. It's just a blue Dreamcast that has the 10th anniversary logo on the lid. It has the 10th anniversary written in gold writing around the edge, and most of them are actually signed by the creator Yuji Naka. So I don't think I've seen one yet that doesn't have the signature, because for the 10th anniversary they had a party where they had Dreamcast, wine glasses, which actually have that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and a couple other items, and 90% of the time if you find those, they're going to be signed by him.
So maybe it was it then a limited release based on who attended this party then? Would that be why they were all signed? Or maybe they bought it at the event and then got it signed?
Yeah, I mean, it's never really been clear to me, like, were they just given away to people at the party, or because it was definitely all just, Sega Japan staff. So, or, could they buy them there? That was really never made clear. But yeah, they're very limited. I think the last one went for like 2,500.
Okay, yeah, that's about right then, even right there with the plush. I think those are going to be items, I don't know if you'd, maybe at a convention, I would guess, at some point in the future. It's going to be tough, though, from the sound of it.
I've never seen either of them, in person at all. And everybody that seems to have one now are like serious, big-time Sonic collectors. So unless, one of them just completely decides to get out of Sonic collecting, it's just going to get rarer and rarer to see one for sale. Right. I mean, it has happened. There's been some big collectors get out of it.
Let's talk.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I was going to say, let's talk about some of the things you do have. What is the Holy Grail in your collection? The one that you're like, I can't believe I finally got this item.
It would probably be the snow globe from Sega's Australian theme park from the late 90s called Sega World London.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So is it kind of like
Sega World Sydney.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There was 2 Sega World theme parks. There was London and Sydney, and the snow globe came from Sydney.
Interesting. So that's great. And when you store it, because I've seen some of the pictures of your setup and your items, your collected, do you find that you're kind of limiting it to 1 or 2 rooms, or have you kind of expanded and rearranged things as you go?
I do limit it to 1 room. And if it were my choice, it'd be all over the house. But I respect my wife. My wife's wishes, and I just keep it in my room. I do constantly rearrange stuff in my room. I have it like a theme where like by the door, it starts classic Sonic, and then like as you go around the room, it just gets to the adventure era, then to the modern era, Sonic Boom, stuff like that. And then I got a closet where I just put like there's no clothes, just all the random Sonic stuff that I couldn't find places for. All my comic collections in there.
No, that's really cool. So that makes a lot of sense. I never actually paid attention to the way it was laid out, but that makes a lot of sense. The different Sonics, over the years, have you found that as you've collected these items and as you've watched the shows and played the video games, have you seen the transition or the changes of Sonic? And has any part of it? Do you have like a least favorite Sonic as you've gone through the years and been a fan of these?
Not necessarily. I like them all. The one that sticks with me the most is the 90s Sonic, voiced by Julia White. Mm-hmm. Anytime like Sonic's voice pops in my head or something, it's always that voice. Even though I really liked them all. I thought all the voice actors had done a great job. At first, I really didn't like the Sonic X Sonic that much, but as I got older, it kind of grew on me a little bit, I guess. I really don't have a problem with Boom Sonic or any of them.
And which of the Sonic shows has been your favorite? I hear really good things about Sonic Boom, and I've seen a couple of episodes, and the writing is spot on, but I haven't actually sat down and watched entire seasons, aside from the original Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, Sonic Boom, I mean, I like it. I really like the show. It's, I feel like it gets a bad rep because people play the game.
Right.
And, the game wasn't so good, so people just automatically, throw the show in with that. But the show is very good, and I do believe Eggman, he steals the show in Sonic Boom. Mike Pollock does a great job. Anytime he's in a scene, like he just completely steals it. I would say my favorite out of all the Sonic shows, it's a tough one. I don't know if I want to say Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog or the Saturday morning cartoon, commonly called Sat AM.
Yeah, one of those is the one that introduced Sally, right?
That was Saturday morning.
Okay.
But I think I have to say Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog just because of like how goofy and stuff it is. Like it's that typical like Looney Tunes style. Like not a lot of stuff makes sense, but like just even watching it as an adult, like it's so funny even if you're having a couple drinks or something.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday AM was still great, but like the thing with Saturday AM is like I feel like it was unfinished. Like the story, it ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think I remember because I wasn't able to catch all of it as a kid, but I do remember the storylines being way more intricate than the regular. What was it, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yes, because that was like an episode by episode thing, but this one like it actually built up to a bigger story, and there was supposed to be a bigger villain than Dr. Robotnik that they kind of teased at the end of it, but then it just never happened because the show got canceled.
Gotcha.
And then there was Sonic Underground, which I really wasn't a very big fan of that. Mm-hmm. I really liked his brother though. There was a green hedgehog that was Sonic's brother named Manic the Hedgehog, and he basically looked like a pot leaf. Yeah, he looked like weed, and I just like I didn't catch on to that when I was 10 years old, but I did like later on in life, and like now when I watch it, like the show is just so much more hilarious to me.
Man, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this now.
Yeah,
I never made that connection.
The fact that his name is Manic, he's a drummer in a band. But the story just wasn't that good.
Yeah, that's the one that always ended on like a music video, and
yes,
it's like bring back Sonic Says. I'd rather have that.
Yeah, and that's another great thing too. Just seeing like Tails smoking and Sonic tell with that whole if anybody tries to touch you inappropriately, say no way. It's just so surreal hearing Sonic say stuff like that.
Or when he called kids ignorant with the drivers.
Yeah.
Every year, some ignorant kids. It's like, Jesus, Sonic. So judgmental. So going back to the collection and what you're, do you see yourself ever reaching a kind of endpoint to the collection, or just kind of continuing and growing it and kind of just picking out the things that you do like and going from there?
I've thought about that a lot. I don't really ever see myself like saying like there's like a whole category of something I'm not going to buy. I have been a little bit more selective about big stuff because last year I actually moved into an apartment Me and my wife, we got married and moved up here to Claremont, and a lot of my stuff is in storage right now. Like most of my arcade machines are in storage. My Dreamcast kiosk. So for now, I've been real selective about big stuff. When I get a house, though, it's probably going to change, and I just don't ever see myself saying like I'm not going to buy this category of Sonic items. There are some stuff like if they can't be displayed very well, like let me think, wallets would be a good example. There's a ton of Sonic wallets out there, but unless I find them for cheap, I'll kind of pass on them or just hold off on them, just because it's hard to display stuff like that.
I noticed you very quickly you were on top of the Subway toys and the promotions, the bags.
Yeah.
What would you say to a fellow collector, not necessarily of Sonic, but just of any type of collector that is trying to get some of the more exclusive items or some of the more time-sensitive stuff that maybe if they wait too long, they'll have the same toy only? What would be your best advice on that?
Definitely don't be afraid to call. I know a lot of people say, don't call the store, don't do this. They won't try to help you. But like, for instance, with the Subway toys, I called one Subway and they didn't have them, or they had no idea what I was talking about. Then I called another local Subway, and it was like the most helpful person ever. And they told me like, they're like, yeah, we got two of them. You want me to hold them for you? They're $1.99 each or 99 cents each or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll be over there later. And then he actually like called me back, and he's like, hey, I found the other two, so I got all four now. You want me to save them for you? I got bags too. You want a couple of those? So you never know. And then like, getting to talk to him, it turned out he was a collector, not of Sonic, but of Marvel stuff. So he knew how it was. And don't be afraid to, call and ask. And, you never know who you might meet in the process.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think a lot of people are maybe afraid that I don't know, maybe that you're bothering them. I don't know what the fear is.
Yeah, I can see that because, especially if you're very introvert and don't like talking to people. But also another thing I was going to mention was don't be afraid, if you're cool with, having people get you stuff instead of finding it yourself. People all the time, know that I like Sonic, coworkers, other family members, just friends from around the world, the United States, whatever. They know I like Sonic, so they're constantly messaging me like, oh, hey, I saw this shirt at this place, or I saw this toy at this place. And I'm talking about like this, people I haven't seen in years will like message me like, oh, hey, I was just in, Five Below in Tampa, and I saw this Sonic shirt for $5. Would you like me to grab it for you? I can mail it to you. And just having stuff like that happen is really nice.
Have you found with your Instagram accounts that some of the people on there are trying to send you stuff?
Yeah, like that blew my mind. And somebody from Spain sent me some capsule toy items, and somebody from I believe it was Portugal helped me get the Sonic Boom cookies, if you can believe that or not. They have Sonic Boom cookies and pork pate in Portugal.
How's that? What do you mean? Like just regular bakery cookies, or?
Yeah, it's like cookies and crackers that they come in a box.
Oh,
you buy
gotcha.
in, like, a grocery store, and then like these little tins of pork pate. And the person like told me like, oh hey, they're at my local market. You want me to go get them for you? And then somebody like sent me a Sonic Boom shadow figure. I already had it, and I feel bad like I'll at least try to pay people for stuff, but sometimes they oh no, it's cool. But like for instance with the Shadow, I already had it, and Shadow is one of the hardest or harder Sonic Boom figures to find. So what I did was I kept it when I did my my next giveaway. After that was one of the giveaway prizes.
That's really cool. Do you ever find that you sometimes get rid of certain things to try to get a new item? Not necessarily just your extra stuff, but something that you're like, okay, I'm ready to let go of this to try to obtain this other item.
Yeah, I've actually, when I was trying to complete my collection of Sonic Fighters plushes, which some of those are super rare, I actually had the Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic plush. I had the soap shoes, and I had a Sega World plush of Sally. And those are very hard to find, both of those, and especially the Sally. If you can find her with the jacket and stuff, like that's extremely hard to find. I still had to get, I believe it was Metal Sonic. Somebody was selling him for, I believe it was 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold the Sally for 800 and the Sonic for 400, and I was able to get the Metal Sonic.
Yeah, I think that's a part of just collecting over the years, and I've done the same thing with comics where it's like, all right, I think I'm ready to let go of this item to try to get, not only to make more room, but to try to get items that maybe you want more, or just find that it's going to complete your collection even more if you're trying to collect, like, for example, like you're doing with all the plushes.
Right. Yeah. And, like for those, like, especially with the Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic one, like that was the only plush I had from that set. So, in order to complete this set that I've been trying to do for years, I was cool with that.
Do you ever have friends or family over and kind of show them the Sonic collection for the first time? What is their reaction when they walk into this room?
Oh, first it's like, just like a kind of a quietness. They just kind of like, whoa. And just kind of like they stand in the middle of the room and they just kind of do a 360. A lot of family, that don't really know about Sonic, they just say, wow, that's really cool. And then they'll turn to look at, different areas of the room that aren't Sonic, like, old school games, or like I have a wall with all the famous people we met from the cons, and they'll just want to talk about that. But then I've also had some like big Sonic collectors come over. Like one just recently came over from the UK. I've also had a friend visit from Wisconsin, and we're actually really close now. And they both came in, and like the one from Wisconsin, he was here for so long that his wife was eventually like, look, we gotta go. he just kept wanting to, like, talk about everything, know the story from every item. And it's also funny too, because I do a lot of, I buy a lot from other collectors. So like a collector will come in here and be like, oh, isn't that, did this used to be this person's item? And I'll be like, yeah.
That's crazy.
But you can spend like hours in here and still like notice stuff, like, stuff that's in the background of the shelves, like, pushing the very back. And like I said, like only 2/3 of my collection's here. I would say 1/3 of it is in storage. So like I have a huge plan, for buying a house. I want to get, I have a certain idea of what I want to do. If you ever get the chance, look up on YouTube. There's a account called Sonic 1992. It's a fellow collector named Barry that lives over in Houston, and he pretty much has like the dream room from the 90s. And his collection is what I inspire mine to be like.
Are you gonna display? Is your plan to display very similar to his once you get your own?
Yes,
house?
like he actually had like another room built on to the house that I believe it's like 25 by 25 or something, and it has like that 90s arcade carpeting.
Oh.
And he actually goes into like closing down stores like Toys R Us and stuff like that, and he buys their like display cases, from like the game section, or I think he did some of those other stores that closed down, and he just has these huge glass cases, and they're so big that he can like actually give each item its own little space. And like on mine, everything's just like jammed full, and his, it's like very organized. And he doesn't just do Sonic, he just does 90s in general. And I saw his set up, and I showed my wife and everybody. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. So I mean, I either want to buy a house in the area where I can add a room onto it, or I want to get like a 4-bedroom house and knock one of the walls down.
You had mentioned conventions earlier. Have you met a lot of the team from the comic books or even voice actors? And if you did, what kind of items did you get signed by them?
I have. For the comics, I've gotten a lot of comics signed. I actually just started a poster, and I want to have like every, artist I meet, draw their version of Sonic on there. I've only got one on there so far, and that's Stephen Butler, and who actually works for Marvel now.
Oh, wow.
Tracy Yardley, I see him pretty often at this convention that I go to. It's actually a Sega convention called Sega Fan Jam every November. It's up in Savannah, Georgia. But yeah, like Matt Herms, I've met him at New York Comic Con. He was super nice. Like, not only did he sign a bunch of stuff for me, he like gave me his like press badges. And my friend Barry that I just mentioned earlier, when he was done with Archie, he saw him at a convention, and he actually gave him his whole like background thing that said like his name and had a picture of Sonic and had the Archie logo. He's like, he just commented like, oh, I really like that too. And he's like, oh, I'm not gonna be needing any more here. You can have it. And so yeah, I was really jealous about that.
No, but, that's really cool.
And I actually had another artist, Jennifer Hernandez, and she actually, this was at New York Comic Con, and she drew my wife and I as if we were Sonic and Amy. And, it just came out so perfect. And, I was always really, there is one artist I really want to meet, Scott Shaw. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I think Ian had talked, I think he had mentioned them.
Yes, he did. He did. And, he's an old school Hanna-Barbera artist. And he's the one that, when Archie first came out with the comics, he drew the pages and the covers. and I was always just a huge fan of his art. And he's only been to Florida once, and that was for Pensacon, and which is very far from us. I actually do have an original Sonic drawing from him, but I had to buy it through someone else that attended a convention that he was at out in California. And with voice actors, I've met several of those, like especially at that back in 2016 when they had a 25th anniversary party back in San Diego. That was probably the most amazing moment ever if you were a Sonic fan and you were there. But they had like the entire voice cast of Sonic Boom. They had a bunch of artists, including Tyson Hesse, the developers of the games, just very many people that worked on on Sonic in the last few years.
I mean, that is a dream. I mean, that's pretty much Mecca, right, for the Sonic the Hedgehog fan.
Oh, yeah.
It's where you gotta be, and I'm sure everyone had an amazing time. Just being surrounded by all these fellow fans and collectors. It's kind of like this very, I'd say it is, even though it is Sonic the Hedgehog, it is kind of a tight-knit community, because I don't see... There will be kids that grow up and get Sonic, but, we grew up with this stuff. So there's like a more, I guess, intimate relationship with the character and all of the different merchandise, media, games, cartoons than what kids are growing up with now.
Right. And it's me and another collector were actually just talking about this, is that we were talking about like what a good like last 2 years it's been for a Sonic fan with all the new merchandise, the comic relaunching, the anniversary party, Sonic Mania. And, he was saying that this is probably the best time to be a Sonic fan. And, I was like, yeah, outside of the 90s. But then it dawned on me, like, a lot of the Sonic fans now, even some of the collectors weren't even, like, born in the 90s. And that like, when I realized that just blew my mind. So,
made you feel old, huh?
Yeah. So for, like, most of the Sonic fans, like, yes, this is the perfect time to be, a Sonic fan.
One of the things that, as a very casual Sonic fan, that I never liked, and I never like to see or hear on the internet either, because it's untrue. It's that whole like notion of, oh, they finally, maybe this will be the good Sonic game, or maybe this one. It's like, have you guys been playing Sonic games throughout all these years? As a Sonic collector, what has been your like kind of pet peeve about people and what they've said about Sonic?
Yeah, like, anytime I open an article about like a new Sonic game or something, or even, some about the comics or whatever, and the first line is Sonic's last few games have been terrible, but, or something along those lines, I'll just, click it closed, or, like roll my eyes, and, I'll just completely ignore it, because, you've had your Sonic 06, you had your Sonic Boom, there were a couple of bad games, but I mean, there were some, amazing ones too. Like Sonic Generations was amazing. And it's funny because a lot of times I'll ask people, I'll be like, did you play Sonic Generations? No. Did you play, have you played Sonic Mania yet? No.
Sonic Colors is another one that a lot of people seem to agree was really, really good.
Yes. Yeah, Sonic Colors. That was an amazing one. There was Sonic Lost World for the Wii, and also Sonic Unleashed, the one where he turns into like a werehog.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of those. In Sonic Unleashed, I was a real big fan of the non-werehog levels where you're just regular Sonic running through. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things I really liked about Generations was the modern Sonic levels, they were that. And then the classic Sonic levels were classic Sonic. And, there was no gimmicks, no werehog, no like anything like that. And, those games were amazing. And, recently we had Sonic Forces, which some people liked, some people hated. I thought it was okay. I think it couldn't, it kind of felt like the creators didn't know what kind of game they wanted to make. It kind of felt like a step down from Generations, because it's almost like, it kind of lost direction. And like a lot of times too, it felt like they tried to fix what wasn't broken. Mm-hmm. But still, it wasn't like a terrible game. Like people say, oh, this could be worse than Sonic 06. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to, and even that, like one of my friends, Al, he actually enjoys that game, and he's a huge Sonic fan as well. And so even that, there's always something to take away even from the universally panned games. Right.
And from stuff like Sonic 06, like look at all the amazing meme material we have now of it.
That's true. And didn't the Chow start with that one too?
No, the Chow started with Sonic Adventure.
Oh, that's right. That's what I'm
And that's one thing they definitely need to do. Like, I don't know why they haven't just made a game with the Chow Gardens in Sonic Adventure 2. Like, so many people want it, and I don't know why they won't do it. That's a big mystery in the Sonic community. Even if, like, people have even said, like, if they just release a standalone Chow Garden game, like, people would play it.
Make it downloadable only, charge $9.99.
Yeah. Put it on the, 3DS, whatever.
Yeah, I used to spend hours on that, just raising the perfect chow, and then it got too old, and inevitably, like I'm like, if I come back to this garden, it's going to become an egg again, and I made so much progress on this little guy.
Yeah. And then you would go and you would try to put it down, but you make a mistake and you still be moving fast and you go throwing it across the level.
Man, that brings me back. With you have aside from the Instagram, you also have Twitter accounts, and Brokehead Core. There will be links to everywhere you can find Treasure Hunting Sonic, Sonic Toy Hunter, everywhere you can find Treasure Hunting Sonic on today's show notes. Just swipe on over. But on Twitter, you're at Sonic Toy Hunter.
Yes.
On Instagram, you're at Treasure Hunting Sonic. And you
Yes.
also have a YouTube channel where you've been showing off your collections and your room and all the new things that you've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
With the YouTube channel, do you have anything planned that that Brokeheads can look forward to, or do you just kind of, as you find things, do you throw up videos?
I do have a lot of videos planned. It's just so hard for me to shoot YouTube videos sometimes because I do work 50 hours a week. You know, in addition to like spending time with my wife and stuff, I just don't have a lot of time to film. So they come out a lot slower than I would like. Like with the Sonic Boom cookies, for example, me and Sonic the cosplayer. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Guy who always goes to all the cons dressed up as Sonic, dressed up as something else.
No, I was one of your pictures was on Instagram too, right? With you laying on the ground. Okay.
Yes. He was supposed to be like Thanos Sonic, I believe, but with the Infinity Gauntlet. We actually did a video where we opened like all the different like versions of the Sonic Boom snacks and, you know, tried them out and talked about them. And when I went to Joy Polis, the Sega arcade over in Tokyo, I bought back a bunch of stuff like cookies. There's a cake. There's chocolate crunch. So when we get together, we want to do another one, you know, eating that stuff. He's local too, so we're going to try to do that pretty soon. Probably around maybe MegaCon Tampa next month, or maybe Holiday Matsuri.
Oh, that's perfect. And if you want to see his YouTube channel, you can also search Treasure Hunting Sonic. It will pop right up. Or again, there will be links in today's show notes. For which one of the three are you most active of? If in case the Brokehead Core have any questions, or maybe even have suggestions on some of the new Sonic stuff coming out, and want to give you a heads up for it.
Definitely Instagram.
Instagram at Treasure Hunting Sonic, and definitely give him a follow. Check it out because your collection is absolutely incredible, man. I got to tell you, it is absolutely impressive.
I appreciate it.
And I do also want to thank you for coming on the show and talking about your collection. We can obviously go into so much more as far as like the little, you know, the classic Sonic and the modern and all the different items that you've seen. But that's a lifetime of interviews. That's a lot of stuff to go over. So
yeah, and thank you for having me. This is my first time doing one of these, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed your very first podcast, right?
Yes.
That's good, man. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for finding the comic shop and getting in contact. And much like the rest of the friends that you've made on Instagram and online, I'll keep an eye out for Sonic merch or extra stuff that I can send your way or at least let you know about.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll definitely be in again.
All right, Brokehead Core, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Treasure Hunting Sonic.
And all will be well. We'll see you next week.